Okay, so here we are talking to Jesse Sedebaka. Hopefully, I didn't butcher your last name too bad. A newly minted certified land investor. Jesse, how are you?
Good. Feels to be have a round trip done.
Nice. Yeah, I like to say you've gone full cycle. So this is all going to be all about you. You're going to tell us about you, your experiences, everything. So be ready to be celebrated. Now, first, congratulations. Like, I think I'm gonna give you the record. From your first text through getting your first deal. I think it was about what little over 3 weeks or so, maybe about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give you the record. So congratulations on that. The record holder, the fastest person to go from 0 to 60 I've ever seen. Very impressed. This is cool. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about you, like who you are, your age, location, your previous experience with business, things like that.
Uh, Grew up in Denver, lived in other places, lived in Mexico, South Carolina, California. Um, I'm back here in Denver now. I've always been pretty entrepreneurial. I did about 15 years working in restaurants, but that entire time I was always trying to start some business. And probably my favorite one was I worked at this restaurant that was close to a concert venue,
Okay.
and I noticed during these concerts, like there'd just be tons of people like trying to park in the restaurant parking lot and then walk over to the concert. So I was like, and the way the parking lot was, it was a U shape where there was two entrances, and then in there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna print some signs and charge people to park in the parking lot.
That's
So
awesome.
I on Craigslist I bought some of those A-frame signs. Went to like a sporting goods store and got like a reflector vest and some cones. Yep, and I even bought a visor. And then I hired a girl off of Craigslist for $20 an hour to like cover the other side. And so one day we went out there and did it. Like we put the sign, because like all the parking in the area was I think $10 or whatever. And I was like, well, I'm gonna do five, right? So we went out there, put up the sign. Like I put a sign down the road with an arrow, and then we were at both the entrances. And obviously I should have seen it coming, but what I should have told the girl, like, if anybody like looks at you weird or gives you hassle, like just let them through. And if I would have told her that, we would have stayed out there a lot longer. But I think I spent like $90 on all the stuff, like the sign. Like I had to print like a big paper that said $5 parking and stuff, the vests and the cones and all that, and to pay her. But we were out there and we made like 70, but I remember there was this one guy who like drove in a Mercedes with his family, and I should have known. Like he didn't look like a rocker that was going to the like death metal concert or whatever. And he looked at me funny. He's like okay, and I was like, well, just go. And I guess he complained to the host desk or something, or the manager. And then like the restaurant manager, who of course I know because I worked there,
Mhm.
he walked out. And he just had this huge grin on his face, almost like a parent who wants to scold a child, but they can't because they're so cute. He's just like, yeah, I can't have you doing this out here.
I was
So
wondering, like, did you even get permission to say basically
no,
start
no, of
parking?
course not.
You just did it.
No, no way. I definitely was not going to ask permission on my day off from work. And
Wait a minute. Oh, that's awesome. That is
yeah.
awesome.
Oh,
Okay,
and
so
then like I think beforehand I told my sister like of my idea, right?
mhm.
And I think we were having a family barbecue that afternoon for some reason. And after he shut me down, like, so I told the girl to come over, and I was like, hey, like we got to go, and then I just like paid her money, and she was like, "What's going on?" I was like, here's your money. Like, gotta go. Like, so she had to like call for a ride or whatever. Anyway, so like after that, like I went over to the barbecue at my mom's house, and I showed up in my reflector vest and like walked in, and my sister was like, "Oh, you did it!" Like, so even though it was like I was $20 in the hole, like it was just like a really good feeling that I tried it.
That explains a lot. That might be why you have the record, the fastest turnaround. That's awesome. That is awesome. All right.
But
So,
anyways, like that's like my favorite story, but I've started other successful businesses since then. So
that's, yeah, I've noticed people who understand the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and just kind of doing things their own. They actually do a lot better with this than those who are just who still have that employee mindset because they're used to people telling them what to do, how to do it, when to do it, giving them permission for everything. And then when it's time for like, all right, you have to tell yourself permission. For some people, it's tougher to make that transition. So yeah, that makes sense. This all okay. That's hilarious too. Just selling somebody else's parking lot. That's G status right there. I love that. Okay. So why don't you tell us when did you decide to jump into land investing?
well, I've been interested in real estate for a long time. I actually worked for a real estate agent who nowadays I would call him an investor friendly agent.
Hmm.
Um, that didn't pan out too well because he had a lot of health problems and he
Oh,
was in like hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt.
oh,
Um, and so basically, like he was going broke, and like he paid me, but then he said like I can't, I gotta, basically gotta go to bed, rest, sort of thing.
oh wow.
Um, and of course, I wish I would have stayed in it because that was like 2005, and Denver, like you know, if I would have gotten established like in some sort of real estate in Denver back then, I mean, everything has just been like hockey sticks since then in Denver. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I kind of come back around and looking into wholesaling, doing rentals, things like that. I just kind of realized that um, it's more than I can handle or that I want to handle at this point. Um, the wholesaling model is attractive, but to me, with houses, it seems like there's too many moving parts and pitfalls, and I just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I actually driving back and forth between a rental that I do have, was listening to the Joe McCall podcast and had heard some interviews he did about land investing. And at first I was like this just doesn't, how could that work? I don't, and I trusted McCall, but it just didn't click with me. And then a few months later, I kept hearing him doing like land podcasts. And I was like, okay, maybe. And then you came on, and I don't know what it was, but like I just felt like I resonated with you, and I think I had been considering it up to that point, and I think it was just time um, and someone to resonate with. So I reached out and joined your Facebook group, and then we did a one-on-one and started.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's been great. It's been great because I remember like a lot of people came to me after I did that interview. I just did it on a whim. He came to my group, said, "Hey, who wants to be interviewed?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I love this stuff." And I had a great time talking to him. It was a lot of fun. I was joking a lot and everything, and a lot of people seem to like that, but not everybody was as serious as you trying to get started. So I really appreciate like the energy and effort you brought because then your intensity, I wouldn't call it intensity, just your intention brought a lot to the group. So like you added to the group right away. And that's always what I'm looking for. People who are going to add to the group in their own way. So I definitely appreciate what you've done and how you came in and you just like hit the ground running and you've participated and you come to the meetings. Like it doesn't get much better than that. So I want to really appreciate and thank you, give you your flowers for that. Now, when you first decided to get started, right, it wasn't cheap. What did your wife say? You have a sister, you have parents, you have friends. Like, did you tell them? I mean, obviously you told your wife, but the other, like your other family, did you tell them what was going on? Did they have an opinion? You know, what was that like?
No, I haven't told anybody else. Not that I'm ashamed to. I guess I just don't talk about my business stuff with my family much. Um, I didn't tell my wife like, hey, it's X amount and I'm gonna do this because it was my money, you know, it's like my own separate account, and I see it as a bit like I don't ask her about all my business expenses. But I told her like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And at the beginning of the year, we kind of sat down at a cafe and like listed out our goals, and
Nice.
that was one of them. So she knew that I've been thinking about it for a while. I since then I've told her like the investment. She doesn't care. Did that answer your question? I don't
No,
know.
that does, because I know a lot of people, when they get started, like they want to do it, but then somebody may like kind of poo-poo on their idea, or you know, like, oh, don't do that, do this, or you know what I mean. And like sometimes that's tough for certain people, and I'm always curious to see how people overcome it, and you know, if that affects them at all. For a lot of some people, like you, it didn't affect you. Whether she would have said something, it wouldn't affect you at all. But other people, they really like, oh, I don't know, maybe they're right, and you know, so that's good to hear. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Um,
Let
right.
me just to add to that. I think she had always she knew that I was looking into land investing, or you know, even prior to that, looking into wholesaling houses. And she was always just like your typical, like, well, why would people sell you their house for that cheap? Or, you know, why would they sell you their land when it, you know, like that? Um, but it was never like, oh, you can't do that, or yeah. So she's always very supportive, and you know, even with our rental stuff, like with her job, you know, and like boring afternoons, there's nothing going on, and they've already met all their goals. Like she's sitting there on Zillow looking at stuff. So
Mm,
um, yeah, she's always very supportive.
that's awesome. You got to keep her. Not everybody has that support, so that's wonderful, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So right after you pulled the trigger, like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I'm jumping in, because I remember in our conversation, you're like, and because it's a big decision, you know. As I tell you, I take this very seriously. You know, this ain't cheap, but you know, I'm going to help you make money. So you decide to do it. What's going through your mind right after you pull the trigger?
Um, I think that was kind of a mix of you got to prove it to yourself, and you got to do it fast. Uh, just because I know with like all my different business endeavors, like you know, there's a saying, it's exhilarating to go fast, and it's um, demoralizing to go slow, something
Mm,
like that. You know, it's like, and that's not to say things don't take time to build, but um, in my consideration of even doing the land business, you know, I deliberated on it for months, and I think the kind of the biggest hurdle or thing I had to lock in place in my mind was my budget. Like, okay, this is going to be a business. It's not just going to be something I try. Um, so you know, and I do have some capital set aside, or that I can set aside for it. So how much is it? How much are you going to set aside? How much are you going to actually invest or be willing to invest in the business? And obviously, what's attractive to land is the simplicity of it.
mhm.
Um, I mean, unless you hit the weird stuff like, you know, like trusts, and but one of the things that really I think resonated with you specifically is that I could tell that you just keep stuff simple. And I think on our first call, I told you my habit as like an analytical. I'm a web programmer and stuff.
Mhm.
My brain is always trying to, you know, research every branch and essentially make stuff complicated. And I knew that wasn't going to fly when it comes to this sort of business. Um, it's been nice on like property research, like market research, but I think that's what took me a while to actually send out my first text is like I really started diving into like trying to figure out this area and stuff I didn't need to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, so getting started, my first thought was like I just need to do it. I need, and um, I need to go through the steps. Maybe not haphazard, but like I just need to like do it and stop worrying about trying to do it in an ideal way or a perfect way. Because part of my marketing background is all about like campaign optimization or like ads, split testing, and things like that, and that's all about optimization. Um, and of course, I tried to like optimize things up front, but I just kept telling myself, uh, I just need to do it, and part of the big help in that actually made me push to do it was the group calls
Mm.
and then our one-on-ones getting started.
Yeah, yeah. I have a similar problem, right? Like you're trying to pre-optimize, right? And he's like trying to get it
Yeah.
just right so you can like you don't have to waste any time. And once things are set, you don't got to think about it or whatever it is. And every time I do that, it's always a mistake because it's like I could have just got something done simpler with manual labor and then optimize after things are rolling. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Um, in fact, the people who have do the best in this business, they just go, right? They don't come from like an analytical background. They just like, yeah, like, in fact, there's certain people I've heard of, they basically just graduated high school. That's all the education they have. And because of that, they just, okay, they got new instruction. They just take it and run with it and they make a ton of money because they just, all right, I'll just do this. And they just do it over and over and over again. And then sometimes people with a lot of education or a lot of those skills, it's tougher to kind of fight through that. And then now that goes into a conversation of actually how we're trained in school and as employees and things like that. It's a conversation for a different day. But with that said, how do you feel about your decision now?
I feel great, and I was thinking this morning, uh, it's easy to forget the earlier training modules you have. I think a lot of the like mindset, um, like internal stuff that you had up front. I was I wasn't too enthusiastic about that, but
I remember.
there was definitely yeah there's definitely some there was definitely some exercises in there which were helpful, and those little things stayed in my head as I had to keep pushing myself. Um, your exercise about like what's think of all your failures in the past, um, or the lies, and like think of what you have accomplished, and um, why is this time going to be different than anything in the past. And yeah, I've definitely kept a lot of that stuff in mind to keep me pushing forward.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear. As I said before, those exercises, they changed a lot for me. I'm like, all right, if they did a lot for me, I know they can do a lot for others. So I'm always glad. I get it. There's always resistance in that because even when I was doing, like, I don't want to do all this. It's stupid. I'm ready to go. But at the end of the day, it always helped me out. So I'm glad that you did find value in them. Even at first, you may not have saw it as something that you could do. With that said, let's jump into your first deal. So this is exciting. Why don't you give us a little background, where you bought it, how much you sold for, whatever it is that you want to share, because this is what a lot of people want to know. Like, if you did it so quickly, tell us how'd it go? What you do? How can we do it?
Yeah. So I'm here in Denver, and naturally we tend to gravitate to what we know. So to me, that meant Colorado in terms of picking a market. However, I do know that certainly Denver and uh, Colorado Springs, which is like the next big city, are just the real estate is so hot here. There people flooding in from California and the
Mm-hmm.
whole rest of the nation. Um, so I went a little further south, and on our one-on-one, you had looked at a market around Pueblo, and even with my budget, I was like, well, I could do that, but to me, that would be swinging for the fences a little too soon. So I want to get in some more lower price repetitions. And again, like just kind of doubting myself. I was like, well, what about this area and this area? I don't know if that'll work out well. And you're like, yeah, just run with it, just try it, you seem to think it could be good. So I was like, well, I'll just trust him on that. Did the prop stream, got a list. You showed me all the boxes to tick. Ended up with 863 entries. So blasted that out, text message. Going through all the responses, is like your standard mix of not interested or what's your offer or who's this or whatever. But there's a good several in there that were just like, yes. Or how do I get, like, I remember one of them said, yeah, how do I get started? I'd
Now, when you
say a
saw
few of
that,
those.
wait, when you saw that, how do I get started? What went through your mind?
Well, I wasn't immediately like, oh yeah. It was just like, okay, I got to find out like what lot do they have? Like, do I actually want them? And of course, there were some of those where I looked at the lots and I'm just like, probably not. Anyways, so some of those people I tried to hop on the phone with right away, like without even sending a text message back, and got a hold of some of them. Some of them didn't answer, and they like texted me right back. They're like, "Hey, I'm on a Zoom call, or I'm at work. I'll call you later." And there's one lady I got a hold of right away, and it was pretty simple. I just said I'm offering between this and that per acre. Now she only had a quarter acre. I was like, how does that price range sound? She's like, yeah, that sounds good. So just on the phone, like real quick phone call, we settled that. I just made sure to get her mailing address and made sure to outline the process to her about I'd be sending the cashier's check to the mobile notary, and the notary would meet her, and then when she signed and notarized, then she'd get the check. And you talk about different methods to like close with people, and to me it just seemed like the quickest, but also a little more credibility. And then there's I'm not just sending her a check and hoping she does her end. One thing I always kept in mind was like, I just want to make it as convenient as possible for people. Now that incurs expense on my behalf, but it's definitely, I feel like it's worth it. Another lady, I think I contacted her like a week later because I never heard back from her, but I said, hey, I'm reaching out before the weekend. I could go find the text, but I basically just followed up, and then same thing, short phone call. And so the first one, the sales price was 800, and then the second sales price was 400. Both of them actually lived in California, different parts of California, and these happen on different days, but basically like that day or the next day, I FedEx them the cashier's check and the deed.
Wait, it was two different. You're buying two different properties from two different owners.
Yeah, correct. And they happen on different days, but like the process was like ASAP that I could, like I drafted up the deeds, which obviously that was part of the training, and certainly questions came up that I asked in the group. Contacted a mobile notary in the area, explained to them the process, make sure they knew what they were doing, which is so simple, but like, I just want to make sure they knew.
Mm-hmm.
And went off without a hitch. The checks got to the mobile notaries. They scheduled with the owners, met up with them. Um, they did the transaction and put it in the return envelope, and that got sent back to me. So basically, my acquisition price for the first two was $1,200 total, 800 and 400. I still got to go do the real math on it, but I'm just guessing with the FedEx, like 2 days or things like that. I'm guessing with fees like shipping and all that stuff, I probably put in a total of 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
And so then on the other side, on selling them, once I got those deeds back and recorded them with the county, and I got back the recorded digital scans, like the county didn't even update their website, so it didn't look like it was in my name yet.
Yeah, they don't
But
update those for weeks, sometimes months.
yeah, yeah. But it was fine because I started to do what's called the disposition side, aka selling them and making the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just last week. So Thursday is when I finally and again, there was like internal resistance. It's like, okay, now I have this thing to sell, and is it good enough? And are people going to want it? Took me, I definitely delayed longer than I should, but finally made a post on Facebook Marketplace. And I know that's not the best source of leads, but I was like, hey, it's easy. And I've posted on there before to sell a couch, just try it. So yeah, posted that on Thursday night, and then I got several responses by the next morning. Some of them sounded like jokers, some of them seemed pretty serious. And I was sitting there Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, and I certainly jumped the gun. Like it was probably out of insecurity, or whether it's just a justification or it's true. It's just like I want to get this thing done. I reached out to someone who I could tell is an investor in that same area, because in my sorting through the different leads and the parcel info and stuff, I could see in the deed history on a lot of different places, places that I didn't end up doing anything with. I could see like there was like this LLC name that just kept showing up in that county. And so my thought, and then so I luckily this county has a lot of good data. So I started to I could search by who was the grantee or the grantor. And I noticed that LLC was on both sides. There was a lot of it being the grantee and a lot of it being the grantor. So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm thinking this guy's buying them, or people are selling them to him, and then he's retailing them out. And I could tell he had this little target niche. Just based on the names, they're probably all North Africans. So my guess was that he's tight with this community, and they're buying land from him like retail. So I was thinking, well, I could probably flip mine to him, and the spread would be more than something I would love. Like my spread would be great. So I did jump the gun a little bit, out of impatience and just wanting to do my first round trip. But I found his Facebook page, and he had his phone number on there, and I called him. He answered, and should probably listen to the recording. I probably sounded pretty nervous, but I was just like, hey, I noticed you're selling a lot of land down there. I have these two parcels. It's like, how much? And well, I posted it for 2,000 each, but if you want to buy both, then I can give you a discount. He's like, yeah, I'll take them. So we set up to meet Monday, which was 2 days ago, and it was great. I drew up the deeds on with me as the grantor side. He's a super nice man, lives pretty close to me, and he had the cash ready, and it was real simple.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, so double my money even after fees and all that is the $3,000 is the
Yeah.
1,500 to 3,000.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many places you can really double your money that easily on your first deal that quickly. Like that's amazing. Like, and now you have the skill. You can do this again and again and again and again. That's the beautiful thing. Like you didn't just double your money once. Now you can do this as many times if you want for the rest of your life. You can teach it to your children. You can do this for, for fun. You can do it for business. Now it's totally up to you. So that's amazing, man. That's really cool. So after that sale took place, you're probably feeling pretty good, convertible, going to the strip club, making it rain and all that.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is, over the weekend and this week, Monday and Tuesday, got a lot more Facebook leads, so I definitely know there's a lot of interested people. And of course, I'm putting those people on call it my first dibs list,
Nice.
people that I'm going to notify when I have anything else down there.
Nice.
And and then I have a contact with that guy who could be a good buyer for anything pretty much in the state, and certainly in the southern half of Colorado. So I feel like it's a good start. It's a good palette to work with.
Absolutely. Having a guy like that in your back pocket, so to speak, it's game changing because you know how quickly they don't mess around. When they want something, they'll get it. They'll pay you quickly. Sometimes you give them a bit of a discount to keep them happy, but they keep coming back, and you're still gonna be making your money. You may make a little bit less than what you would if you held off, but money loves speed. And the quicker you could turn that 3,000 to 9,000 and turn that 9 to 18 and that 18 into like 36 or whatever, like it doesn't stop. It does not stop. So no, that's fantastic. That's really, really, really good. Now we're almost done here. Appreciate all the things that you've been sharing and your openness. I'm finding it very, very fascinating because I was like, oh shit, I didn't know about these inner Jesse thoughts that was happening during this time. But you've been a member of the group. As I said before, you've been an outstanding member, showing up, contributing, asking questions, because I love that. Why don't you tell me so I can learn the pros and the cons of how I conduct the group, the training, anything along those lines?
Pros and cons. I mean, all pros, that come to mind. I'd say it's a pretty focused group. There's not a lot of useless chatter.
Mhm.
It's not robotic, certainly, and but I don't join groups to chit chat. Like whether I've joined some other groups, not for land investing or even real estate, but just different business stuff, and I'm just like, I don't have time to sort through your conversations. Like, yeah. So, anyways, the group is very focused and um, obviously very helpful, because when people are asking questions, even if there are other members who are kind of like um, certainly more advanced than me, like doing stuff like way beyond my horizon. It's good to see from an encouragement standpoint, but then also just kind of like little tidbits here and there to keep in mind. Like Terry Beth is, smashing it.
Oh
PJ's
gosh, he's
smashing it.
killing it.
Yeah. Um, PJ's he's, I would say, like in terms of deal size, like he's a little more advanced to me, and Terry Beth is like way further. So it's nice, like, I don't know an analogy, maybe like a sports team or some sort of activity. Like I'm into kickboxing, like there's always people at levels, and when everybody gets along and works with each other, um, you don't want to like have two huge like people that are way advanced and then newbies. There's a good progression in there. Again, I mean, obviously everybody has fun and stuff in the group, but it's definitely mostly focused. Cecile's been very helpful as well. Or Cecil, I'm sorry. Yeah, see, and he's reached out to me on the side, like help me out with a lot of the, I'll call it tech, but it's really just kind of like tools, how to use certain tools and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I love the group. Cons, I can't think of any cons. Yeah, then that's it.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I mean, you'll probably figure out some cons eventually. I'll probably offend you or something at some point, but you know, that'll be different. So real quick, what deals are you working on right now?
Yeah, so there was another seller that I had contacted. Maybe like one con, I wouldn't. It's not about the group, but like I think like something that could be improved overall is maybe have like with the tool recommendations.
Mm,
Um, now you did this with me one-on-one, and I think you did this with me one-on-one because you need to know where each person is coming from, like their budget and things like that. I think maybe like two different kind of bundle options for like if you're just on like a really tight budget, go with these tools, but then also have like another bundle, like a little more expense per month. The text broadcasting tool that we used, or that's recommended, I just found it very inefficient.
hmm
Is the word I'll use. It was just really hard to like get through the responses and stay organized. Oh,
Yeah,
super cheap, obviously, like ultra cheap. And that's fine. It's just I'm more on the I'd rather spend a few more and save some time. But anyways, like so going through that list, I basically had to tell people that like I dropped my phone in water.
got it. Have to get a new
So
phone.
like
Got it. Got it. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's
because
a great
I was
suggestion.
switching over to another tool, and I was like, hey, and I used the old one to say, hey, I dropped my phone in water, and I just got access to the number temporarily, so I'll be contacting you on another number. Um, and I said, hey, I didn't forget about you, but I dropped my phone in water. Like, and that wasn't part of the training. I was just trying to think of
That's
some
I
reason.
like that. I like that a lot.
Um, yeah, it didn't seem to matter. I mean, this one lady was like, oh yeah, I'm glad you contacted me, and she owned these quite a bit bigger lots.
Mm,
I guess she inherited them from family a long time ago, and she just never did anything and didn't have any plans. Um,
pretty typical.
yeah, now she lived here at least close enough to me, and then she was going to be driving like past basically Denver. She was going to be passing Denver. So we scheduled to meet in person. There was a few hiccups with that, like with traffic, so we had to reschedule and stuff. But yeah, we just Monday was a good day. I got paid, and then I also acquired three much bigger lots that are
Mm,
very close to the city. And now there's some weird things about them, but I think with the other fact, like the zoning is fine. Like the roads are there; they just need to be probably like graded again or paved. Whoever wants to buy it. Um, so yeah, like I'm already stepping up to slightly larger deals, so that feels great as well.
nice. And I would imagine the proceeds from the first deal is paying for these new deals.
Yeah,
I
yep,
love it.
exactly.
Self-funding deals. I love it. I love it. All right. So what advice would you give new or would-be land investors, you know, looking to get started or anything like that?
Um, don't think about it too much about the actions you're going to take. Obviously, you need to deliberate if discern if it's like for you.
Mhm.
Um, obviously, you need to have a budget for it. Um, all that stuff depends on your own background. You know, like for me, I didn't want to do the quote unquote wholesale route where you're getting a purchase agreement and then turning around and getting the end buyer and kind of playing the middle. Um, Again, that was one thing that attracted me to you, was just the simplicity. Like, I'm just gonna buy it. Like, no playing games, no waiting. I'm just gonna buy it and then um, control the asset and then sell it on the other side. Can always play the wholesaling route too, but to me, it's more complicated. And I knew I just wanted to get started fast. Yeah, so in terms of the actions, like when you do get started, don't certainly don't try to optimize too much. Um, Obviously, the self doubts, like, is this going to work or am I doing it right? There's no place for that. It's really simple. I mean, you know, I've gotten so many responses on just that one Facebook post, that I know if I get more stuff in that area, like I'm going to sell it.
Mhm.
I think that's a big, in all the different businesses I've started. I'm like certainly no poster boy or anything for success, but the one lesson that just keeps coming back is like you got to sell what people want. And land and real estate, like people want it. It's never going to go away. You know, just like people want clothes, um, people want food, people want land, and they want houses. Like it's, you know, and you do it the way we talk about in the training and the group. Just push forward, do it. Um, I certainly didn't do like any negotiation, like trying to talk people down. Yeah, because I dealt with tons of people that are like, yeah, I want 30,000, and even the assessed value is like $400. Like, anyways, you know, I'm like, I'm no negotiator. I hate the concept of haggling and negotiating. I understand it's something I'm gonna have to learn as I work into bigger deals, but just get started, like get those wins under your belt, get the confidence, get proof of concept. You can see the product, aka the land, is something people want. At the same time, there's a lot of people who don't want the land. They just want to get rid of it. They don't want to deal with it. They're willing to give it away cheap. And if you make it easy for them, you know, telling them, you know, talking to them, sending the text, like the little, I would say like the unique, what makes Vic's approach unique is it just adds a lot of credibility and trust. Um, it stops them from thinking like, is this a scam? Or is, you know, so the way you teach is like, it's just simple. It makes people feel good. Yeah, and it works.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Well, that's all the questions I had. Like, would it be okay for anybody to reach out to you, to pick your brain or anything, or would you rather stay behind the scenes? Either way is fine with me. I don't care. I already know how to find you.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
All right. So,
I don't know
if you
much
guys want
I
to
have
reach
to
out to
offer right
Jesse,
now, but
yeah, he's in the Facebook group. You'll see him. His name is Jesse BC in the Facebook group. So send him a DM if you have any questions for him, or you want to give him his props, his kudos. He's done well. It looks like he's already on his way to do even better. I appreciate you and your time. I appreciate everything you told me. I'm definitely going to look into making the segmented. Hey, if you're on the budget, look at these tools. If you have a little bit more, look at those. I think that's a really good point. I really should add that. Other than that, anything else you want to say, or before we wrap this up?
no, that's it. Thank
Okay.
you for doing what you do.
No, this is why I do it. I really enjoy this process. All right. Well, that's it for today. I appreciate everybody for listening. Make sure you guys give Jesse some love, and like he's also your competition, because no one's done it faster than him so far. So good luck. All right, guys. Peace.